They say there was once a market that opened only when the sun died. It wasn't on any map, nor along any road. It appeared where the fog was thickest, and vanished before the first rooster crowed. No one knew who built it. No one dared ask. At first glance, it looked like any ordinary market. Rows of stalls made from cane and clay, lanterns flickering dimly, traders calling softly through the dark. But if you listened closely, you'd hear something else beneath the whispers, a sound like breathing from beneath the ground. The villagers called it the Market of the Lost Shadows. They said you could buy anything there. Wealth, beauty, healing, love. But not with money. You paid with what could not be seen. You paid with your shadow. The elders warned, a man without a shadow is a man without a soul. But desperation blinds even the wise. It began with a woman named Amina, from a small forgotten village by the river Kondo. Her brother Kito was dying. No herbs, no healer, no priest could save him. And then, one night, a stranger came knocking on her door, an old man with skin like dry bark and eyes that never blinked. He told her of the market that sold miracles. Go there at dusk, he whispered. Ask for the one who trades in shadows. He'll give you what you need, if you're willing to lose what you are. Amina didn't sleep that night. She sat beside her brother, his breath shallow, the candlelight flickering on his small face. When the first mist rolled over the hills, she rose and wrapped him in a blanket. By the time she reached the riverbank, the air had changed. Cold, still, thick with a silence that pressed on her ears. And then, through the fog, she saw it. Lanterns swaying in the mist. Shadows moving without light. The faint murmur of voices that didn't belong to the living. The market. It was real. And from somewhere deep within the maze of stalls, a voice called her name. Soft, familiar and wrong. Amina. I've been waiting for you. Amina froze. The voice came from deep within the mist, low and soft, like it was being pulled through water. It shouldn't have known her name. The fog coiled around her ankles, curling like fingers. The river behind her had fallen silent, even the frogs, even the wind. Only the market breathed. She took one hesitant step forward, then another. The ground beneath her shifted, not dirt, not stone. It felt like skin, damp and pulsing. A faint hum filled the air, the sound of whispers tangled together, like hundreds of unseen mouths repeating prayers she couldn't understand. Lanterns lined both sides of a narrow path, their flames flickering inward instead of outward, sucking the light back into themselves. And then, the market appeared. It was vast and endless. Rows of stalls made of cane and blackened wood, covered with strange fabrics that shimmered even without wind. The traders stood behind their tables, faces hidden behind masks, ivory, bone, or sometimes faces that didn't seem carved at all but grown. Their wares weren't fruits or spices. They sold jars filled with whispers, bottles of mist, pieces of glass that showed your face aging, and cages filled with fluttering shadows. Each time someone made a purchase, the air grew colder, and Amina saw that some of the buyers walked away differently, lighter, emptier, as if something had been peeled off their souls. She kept walking, clutching her brother's blanket against her chest. He was fading, his lips pale, his eyes half open. She whispered to him, but he didn't stir. "Hold on, Kito," she murmured. "I'll find the cure. Just hold on." From the corner of her eye, a figure moved. A lender. The same one who had spoken her name. He stood at the farthest stall. His table empty except for a single clay jar filled with a swirling darkness, shifting like smoke trapped under water. Amina felt the pull, like gravity itself bent toward him. He wore a robe as black as the void between stars, and his hands were pale. Too pale, like they hadn't seen the sun in centuries. When he lifted his head, the hood slipped back just enough for her to see his eyes, faintly glowing gold like candlelight behind old glass. "Welcome, Amina," he said softly. "I was wondering when you'd come." "How do you know my name?" she asked. But her voice sounded small, swallowed by the fog. He smiled, and it wasn't kind. "Names echo," he said. "Especially when they've already been promised." Her heartbeat stumbled. "Promised? To who?" "To me." He gestured to the jar. Inside, the shadow turned, and she saw something horrifying. The silhouette inside the jar was hers. She stumbled back, clutching Quito tighter. What is this?" "A glimpse," he said, "of what will be if you choose. You came for healing. You came for a miracle. Every miracle has a price." "I have no gold," she said quickly. "No silver, no land. But I can work. I can." He raised one hand and silence fell over the market. Even the shadows froze. "We don't trade in gold," he said softly. "We trade in truth. In essence. In what follows you, even when you cannot see it." Amina's breath caught. "You mean your shadow," he finished. "One so pure, so unbroken. I would give you anything in return." The candle beside him flickered, and for a moment, she thought she saw other shapes moving behind him. Dozens of figures standing still in the darkness, their eyes faint and hollow. "Adolis." Amina took a shaky breath. "My brother," she whispered. "He's dying. I'll give you my shadow if you can save him." The merchant leaned forward, and his grin widened. "Done." Before she could blink, his hand reached out, cold, light as mist, and touched her shoulder. A warmth spread through her body, burning but not painful, like the light of dawn inside her veins. Quito stirred in her arms. He coughed once, then opened his eyes. His skin glowed faintly, life returning where death had waited. Amina gasped, joy flooding her face. "You did it," she cried. "He's breathing." But the merchant was no longer in front of her. He was behind her. His voice drifted from the shadows, echoing like 100 mouths whispering at once. "Payment received." She looked down, and her heart stopped. There was no shadow beneath her feet. When Amina returned to the village, dawn was breaking. She didn't remember walking home, only the feel of wet grass, the sound of her brother humming softly beside her. People stared as she passed. Old women stopped their chores. Men looked away. Even the dogs barked, then whimpered. At first she didn't understand why, until one child pointed, eyes wide with fear. "Mama," the child whispered. "That woman, she has no shadow." Amina froze. She turned slowly, saw the morning sun stretch across the road, and where her outline should have been, there was nothing. The light passed through her as though she wasn't there. Her stomach dropped. But when she looked down at Quito, sleeping, breathing, alive, she told herself it was worth it. That night, when she tried to sleep, she dreamed of the market again. The lanterns burned in reverse. The whispering grew louder. And from the center stall, the merchant's voice returned, closer this time inside her head. "You traded your shadow for a life. But a shadow is not just what follows you, it's what binds you. Without it, the dark will call you back." She woke up screaming. The next morning, her reflection in the river looked wrong. It moved slower than she did, its lips curving when hers did not. And when she turned away, the reflection didn't. Elder Mosi, the oldest man in the village, came to her house 2 days later. His hair was white, his hands trembling, and when he stepped inside, Amina noticed he too had no shadow. He looked at her, pity and fear in his eyes. "You went to the market, didn't you?" he asked quietly. She nodded, tears welling up. "I had no choice. My brother." "You don't need to explain," he said, voice hollow. "I once went there too. To bring back my wife." Amina's eyes widened. "And she came back," he whispered. "But I didn't." "Not fully." The day you give away your shadow, you stop belonging to the sun. One day soon, the shadow merchant will come for what's left of you. That night, the wind carried laughter through the trees, the same echoing laughter from the market. Amina lit every candle in her house, but the flames bent toward her, as if pulled by something unseen. Kito's voice grew strange, distant, as though he spoke from far away. And when she held him, she felt the chill of moonlight against his skin. The next morning, Kito's shadow was gone too. And so began the nights of silence in the village of Kondo. Doors stayed barred after sunset. Children were told never to follow the mist. And from time to time, when the fog rolled too thick across the river, people swore they could still hear the market's traders calling softly, "Shadows for sale, shadows for sale." The whisper never left her. It followed Amina through the days like smoke that wouldn't clear. When she fetched water, the ripples in the river spelled words she didn't want to read. When she cooked, the fire bent away from her hands. And every night the mist returned to her door, soft at first, then thicker, darker, humming like a living thing. Kito grew stronger but colder. He slept through the days and walked through the nights. Sometimes she'd wake to find him standing by the window, staring toward the river, his lips moving as if repeating something. Once, she crept closer and heard him whisper, "They're calling, sister. The voices from the fog. They say we belong to them now." She pulled him into her arms, trembling. "No, Kito. You're safe. I won't let them take you." But her arms passed through him for a heartbeat, like his body was made of mist. Then he blinked solid again. That was the first night she truly knew what she'd done. On the 7th evening, the air in the village changed. The sky turned the color of iron, and the birds fell silent mid-flight. Dogs hid under huts. Elder Mosi appeared again, leaning on his staff, his face pale as ash. "It's happening," he said. "The market is calling its debt." Amina grabbed his arm. "Tell me how to stop it." He shook his head. "You can't. Once you give your shadow, the merchant owns your path back to the sun." "Then I'll go to him," she said, voice fierce. "I'll take it back." Mosi looked at her for a long moment, sorrow etched deep into his old eyes. "There's only one way to take back what was sold," he said quietly. "You must walk into the market when it's empty, when the traders sleep, and light the black lantern." Amina frowned. "The black lantern. It burns with no flame. It shows what shouldn't be seen. But beware, when you light it, the market sees you too." He turned to leave, his figure fading into the fog like a dying memory. "And Amina," he whispered without turning back, "if you hear your shadow calling your name, don't answer." That night, she waited until Kito slept, his breathing shallow again, his skin pale as glass. Then she took the lantern from her shelf, the same one she had used to find her way home from the market before, and stepped outside. The fog was waiting for her, thick silver, endless. Each step she took, the air grew colder. Her breath came out black. And somewhere in the distance, faint music began to play. Drums and flutes warped and slowed, like a heartbeat fading in water. The market appeared again, its stalls half shrouded, half broken. The traders were motionless now, heads bowed as if asleep. But she could feel their eyes beneath the masks, watching even in their dreams. She found the center stall, the table where the shadow merchant had once stood. "Me." And there it was, the black lantern, its glass smoked over, no flame inside. She lifted it carefully, heart pounding. "Show me the truth," she whispered. The moment her breath touched it, the lantern ignited. Not with light but with shadow. A deep, swirling darkness poured upward like ink in water, twisting and folding until it took shape. Faces, arms, countless figures writhing silently, all made of shadow. And among them, she saw herself. Her shadow, chained, struggling, its mouth open in a silent scream. She fell to her knees. "Please," she begged. Let her go. A low laugh rippled through the stalls. Why would I? The shadow merchant stepped from behind the darkness, his robe moving like smoke caught in a storm. You came back, Amina. I was beginning to think you'd forgotten our little trade. Amina raised her chin. You lied to me. Did I? He said, tilting his head. I gave you exactly what you asked for. Your brother lives, does he not? Her hands shook. He's dying again. You're taking him too. The merchant's grin widened. Of course. You sold your shadow, but your shadow is not just yours. It binds what you love, what follows you, what remembers you. When it fades, everything tied to it fades too. Amina's tears streaked down her face. Then take me. Leave him. You have nothing left to give, he said softly. Except your light. He raised his hand, and the black lantern flared. The air grew thick, heavy, electric. Amina screamed as her skin began to glow, threads of golden fire unraveling from her body, the last of her life burning out. But then, she remembered Mosi's words. When you light the black lantern, the market sees you too. Her mind snapped into clarity. If the market saw her, then the market could also see itself. She seized the lantern and turned it toward the merchant. The darkness burst outward, spilling like a wave, and for the first time the merchant recoiled. His shadow twisted, fractured, began to peel away from him. What have you done? He hissed, his voice 1,000 overlapping screams. You said every trade has a price, she shouted. Then pay yours. The ground beneath the stalls began to shake. Lanterns shattered. The traders awoke, their masked faces melting into smoke. A wind tore through the market, ripping away the veils, the tents, the darkness itself. And beneath it all, Amina saw what the market truly was. Pit. A living hole carved into the earth, filled with writhing shadows clawing to get out. Her own shadow reached for her, its eyes pleading. Come back, it whispered. Come home. The merchant lunged, but Amina hurled the lantern into the pit. It exploded, not in light but in pure silence. Everything stopped. The noise, the fog, even time. For a single perfect moment, the market froze in a black stillness, then collapsed inward, vanishing into itself like a dream being swallowed whole. Amina awoke by the river. The dawn was pale and cold. Her hands were burned, her clothes torn, and the black lantern lay shattered beside her. Quito lay nearby, asleep but breathing softly, a faint shadow stretching beside him. He was whole again. She looked down at her feet. Her shadow had returned, faint, flickering but there. And yet, the sun felt colder. When she blinked, the reflection in the river didn't move. It only smiled. For weeks after, the village tried to forget. They spoke her name in whispers, said she had walked into the mist and come back wrong. Some said she was blessed. Others said the merchant had marked her, and that one day, the market would open again to claim her completely. But the strangest thing of all was this. Every harvest moon, when the mist rolled down the riverbank, people saw lanterns flickering in the fog. Rows of them. And among the traders, beneath a hood of smoke, stood a woman, her eyes glowing faintly gold. Shadows for sale, she would whisper. Shadows for sale. The sun rose, but it brought no warmth. The river gleamed gold, but its surface held no life. Amina stood there for a long time, staring at the reflection that no longer belonged to her. It smiled when she didn't. It blinked when she didn't. And when she turned to walk away, it stayed behind, still watching. In the days that followed, the villagers saw her less and less. Her hut remained, but smoke never rose from its fire. Quito said she was resting, healing, but his eyes betrayed fear he couldn't hide. He would often wake at night to find the door wide open, the mist creeping in, and a trail of bare footprints leading toward the riverbank. He'd follow them, But they always stopped at the edge of the water. And there, in the still surface, two shadows waited. One of light, one of darkness. Standing side by side beneath a moon that refused to shine. Seasons changed. The village rebuilt. People began to forget, as they always do. But when the mist grew heavy and the wind smelled like burnt honey, traders whispered of a new market rising deep in the forest. No drums, no torches, no noise, only a whisper. Shadows for sale, shadows for sale. Those who went searching never returned. Those who stayed heard the stories. They said the merchant had found a new keeper. A woman with gentle eyes and a scar shaped like a crescent moon. She did not speak much, only smiled. And when she leaned close to bargain, her reflection in the jars did not move. Moral in narrator tone. Every light casts a shadow, and every soul is born owing something to the dark. But the wise never try to trade with it. For darkness gives nothing freely, and always comes to collect what it's owed. And so the legend of the village market that sold shadows lived on, passed down in whispers, carried by the wind. And on some nights, when the fog rolls too thick to see the stars, you might still hear that voice drifting through the mist. Shadows for sale. Shadows for sale. Then silence. And that was the tale of the village that dared to sell its shadows. Some trades are not meant for human hands. Some markets never truly close. Remember, when the fog grows thick, when the night feels heavier than it should, and you hear whispers calling your name from somewhere unseen, don't look back. Don't answer. Because sometimes, the shadow that follows you home isn't yours anymore. This is African horror, where every legend bleeds truth. If you like this story, hit the subscribe button, like the story, and share it to your loved ones.